So, today I'm going to talk about guilt bonds and also idiot compassion and how they're related. And I like to talk about the psychological aspects of awakening because awakening to the self with a capital S, does not heal the mind. So, let's say you realize the self, you realize that there's this nuclear intelligence that is the real you. And then you zoom back into your personal experience. And because there's, for example, chronic guilt in your personality, that light trying to make its way through your chakra system and expressing into your physical world is going to short circuit and it's going to crash in on itself in the second chakra, resulting in digestive issues, fertility issues, um, keeping you trapped indefinitely in unpleasant or abusive friendships, romantic relationships, job dynamics, right? Because if we are holding on to guilt inside of our psychological vessel, electromagnetically, our aura is going to attract people that don't treat us well because we believe we deserve it. The one of the deep psychological reasons for holding on to guilt is something along the lines of like at the bottom of the psyche is like this idea that being human is despicable, disgusting. Even being a woman is disgusting. My feminine energy is disgusting. And that makes sense because, right, we've been conditioned to ignore our intuition, to try to subdue and control our emotions, to subdue and control our bodies. Like we've been told that things that are natural are unnatural. So all that suppression creates this idea that, and really it's not just a suppression, it's like the original wound, right? We had a perception that we were separate from God, then we felt ashamed, then we felt guilty. Well, there I must have done something wrong to deserve this. And a lot of unhealed empaths, especially, those of whom have karma of the doormat variety, right? When people say, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do sweet people, why do people who mean well, why do they get sexually abused? Why do they get raped? Why do they get like stepped on at work, trampled? It's because they believe they deserve it. And in the business world, I think I've shared this before, somebody that I admire that talks about the consciousness of business, that he infuses the consciousness of his spirituality into his business, says that people that get paid a lot for being a CEO, like millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, versus people that get paid $200,000. The difference between those two people is that the one that gets paid more believes they deserve it. And we should really pay attention to this and tell the creator, right, help me improve my beliefs around worth, because we do receive what we believe we deserve. And the reason why that is important, why desire and receiving is important from even within the dialogue of liberation and enlightenment, is because the fact of the matter is that whatever desires you have, you cannot subdue. They were placed there by the creator. Like if you have a desire for a partner, if you have a desire to create a business, like that desire was placed inside of you. It's a nuclear energy. So if you subdue it, if you ignore it, or if you don't change your beliefs so that you can't figure out how to receive it, the energy will short circuit, creating a health problem, a financial problem, relationship problems, chaos in your life, bring chaos to your family. So, in order for us to become a vessel that can allow that energy to flow through us, we must heal the mind. And I really want to talk about guilt because it's such a seductive energy. And one of the reasons it's seductive is because it is, think of it like the idea of the opponent, right? In Kabbalah, they call it Satan, the opponent, the trickster. We all make mistakes, we all react. And that guilt that you can hold on to can keep you attached to somebody that's not good for you because you believe you deserve it. Like if you make mistakes in a relationship, if you react, and then you chronically feel guilty about maybe that you made a mistake, maybe that you screamed at someone, maybe you lost your temper. But the fact of the matter is that that person is is not nice to you. Maybe they're always aggressive in their speech. Maybe you have a friend that you've had your whole life that every time they speak to you, they they put a little dagger, you know. They put a little aggressive twist. Maybe they're passive aggressive when they perceive they're being ignored. Maybe they'll insult you. Maybe when they drink, they insult you. I've seen so much of this, right? Just observing my life, my brother's lives, my friends' lives. So if I feel guilty and I say, well, they had a bad childhood, you know, they can't help it. They're just, you know, they had such a terrible childhood. You know, we have to have compassion. Yeah, compassion is saying, like, okay, this person is the way they are because of the experiences that they've had, reactions that they had to those experiences, past life stuff. But compassion doesn't equal now I should stay bonded to them. What keeps you bonded to them is the guilt. So no matter how you're showing up, how the person is treating you, like the guilt, the chronically guilty empath or the chronically guilty person will choose to remain connected to people that are deleterious to your health. That is, it's a reflection of poor self-esteem, low self-respect. And let me tell you that I have met a lot of spiritual teachers. I've met a lot of people, great souls that have done incredible things in this world, and they have boundaries of steel. Boundaries of steel. They do not tolerate abuse at all, at all. And it can be tricky when maybe you've come out of a relationship, let's say you had a childhood where you were beaten, or a relationship where there was a serial cheater, right? And so that form of abuse is very extreme. So in your mind, right, maybe you attract people that are not that bad, right? Not that bad, but still abusive in some way, which anything but love is abuse. And we all have abuser energy, but the the way to know whether you should stay in a relationship with someone, whether it's a friend or an intimate partner, is whether the people are accountable, whether they apologize. People who do not apologize to you are emotionally manipulating you, and you, if you allow people like that into your life, are playing into an inferiority complex and a dynamic where you believe you deserve to be treated less than, and that you are always the one to extend the olive branch, to initiate healing conversations. If you're always the one to initiate a bridge, right, build a bridge from your heart to theirs, you might want to walk away from those dynamics, because in a real cooperative relationship, both people are equally interested in healing and building. So idiot compassion is, like I said, it's like people who are, you know, that you're stuck in idiot compassion if the net result, if the fruit of your state of being is that you are circulated by people that do not speak to you kindly, don't treat you well, that aren't you know, self-responsible, accountable, they don't apologize, people who kind of use you as a dumpster to take out their rage and their pain. And a person that's chronically guilty, and a person who's an idiot compassion, and on top of that, a person who has either conscious or subconscious religious conditioning, might believe, like, I should withstand this. I should withstand this because that's what kind people do. That's what spiritual people do. That's the right thing to do. But like I said, if you come from a past that's brutally abusive, if you are in relationship with people that are more subtly abusive, right, in the ways that I just described, they hold you in contempt, they withdraw affection, If you don't do what they want, they withdraw from you. Like it's like they disappear. Um, they hold you in contempt in their energy, right? They make sure you know, almost in a sadistic way, how much they're hurting, because especially people that have more narcissistic personalities, they a part of their like pathology is they have a sadistic, a sadist, which is a vibrational match to the masochist of the empath, and the sadist will punish the masochist until it decides that the masochist has felt enough pain that equals the amount of pain that the sadist is in, that the narcissist is in. And that sympathy guilt bond can keep you tied. It's another way that bond works. It's like if you believe you're always wrong and you feel guilty for every time you make mistakes, and remember, we're all human, we all make mistakes. If you have chosen someone who's of the righteous flavor of narcissism, who is more subtly abusive, who has perhaps like an intense moral code, those people are called communal narcissists. They might do a lot of good, a lot of charity, work for the church. You know, if you're in a relationship where to the appearances something looks good, but your experience with them is just very almost physically uncomfortable, it doesn't feel like a vulnerable exchange of sincerity. It feels more like if you find yourself groveling, apologizing all the time, if you feel, even though nobody can make you feel anything, like nobody can technically make you feel anything, but if you find yourself in a dynamic where you're always explaining, it's like walking on eggshells. I think there's a book called Walking on Eggshells. You're always trying to explain, like, because when somebody who's sadistic or is emotionally manipulative, especially certain types of narcissists, when they ghost you or try to make you suffer, like the punishment doesn't fit the crime, like if they feel crossed, if they feel like you've crossed them, they will they will punish you like in such an incongruent way to what actually happened, where a healthy person would just say, I'm feeling hurt, like let's talk about this, like please let's have this not happen again. Somebody that's more sadistic will just enjoy and get off on hurting you. If that's happening but you're the one who's always apologizing, there's something terribly off there, right? You're playing out an inferiority complex. So the gift of empathy is that like you have the ability to sense what is, right? If somebody is emotionally manipulating you, never apologizing, playing emotional games, disappearing and returning, right? If it feels almost maniacal, like they might come back to you in a very intense, like happy way, and then when they feel hurt they will disappear. Like that's not healthy. That's the person who's swinging. And guilt can be a bond. Guilt coming from either like I have to have compassion for all beings and so therefore I should withstand this. Guilt coming from, oh well, I clearly have made mistakes and maybe I deserve this treatment. Absolutely not. The past is the past. Let it die. If you are in a relationship with someone, if you want to stay in each other's lives, whether it's a friend, an intimate partner, a business partner, you must agree to leave the past in the past and, make a sincere effort to not repeat the past and be sincere in your apology and empathize with the other person. But if that doesn't achieve a healing, then the other person is not interested in healing. They're interested in being superior. And in the case of certain narcissists, right, part of their supply is the requirement of sympathy. So again, no matter how much you maybe apologize or no matter how much you're there for them, it's like it doesn't register until they feel satisfied with the amount of sympathy, almost like a baby cow drinking milk. Like, till I'm fattened up, until I feel satisfied that I'm totally full of sympathy of this mother's milk. And it is mother's milk because the sympathy that they are looking for often is stemming from love that they did not feel, maybe from a parent or even from a past life. So guilt can keep you trapped in terrible dynamics forever. And I hear, when I hear people say, like, I don't like to label people, I don't like to put stuff in the box of narcissist and this, and I agree with that. But however, I can tell you from my personal experience that my life, my health, my vital life force, everything in my life has gotten radically better by calling a spade a spade. And that's part of the healing process of the empath. Like, if you can sense something that's off, it is. Call it whatever you want. You don't have to call it narcissism. You can say, okay, I see what's going on here. There's a game being played, and I don't want this. You have no obligation to stay. Guilt should never be the glue that keeps you glued to anything. It should be love, right? But if what's playing out in your relationship is these power games, I'm sorry to break it to you, but that is not love. So, and even though we might like momentarily engage in power games, or like if if you are sincere in not living that way and wanting to live from your heart, right? Opening your heart in relationship is a whole different level of awakening than opening your heart like when you're out of relationship. It's really easy to walk around and feel the unity of life, and talk to the trees and the elements and commune with everything. And but with the people who trigger you the most, who trigger the deepest wounds inside of you, right, to keep your heart open in those situations, that's a practice. And if the other person isn't engaging in the same practice, like, it's best that you walk away. So people say, I don't like to label and I don't like to do this, but like, people that talk like that though, they usually stay trapped in unpleasant circumstances for much longer than is healthy for them, until they eventually learn, like, okay, like maybe I am in a bad situation. And I've seen it so many times. Like, I have worked with people who have been abused in, there's so many ways people can be abused and manipulated. The first step to them healing, which by the way included them healing things like multiple sclerosis and all kinds of health issues, was saying, yes, I was abused. Yes, he was cruel. She was cruel. Yes. Ugh, just saying, calling a spade a spade. Now, you don't want to hold on to it. Like, once you realize what you're in, you need to exercise your free will and disengage and leave that situation. Do not be trapped in a situation by guilt that you're a bad person and that this person who's blaming you for everything must be right, which the unhealed empath does. It pedestalizes and it assumes that because it might have evidence in the physical world that it can't do life well. Maybe, if you've manifested illness, if you've manifested financial problems, if you've manifested chaos, if you feel, like overwhelmed by your own, sensations, like that kind of a person in absorbed in unconscious female energy usually can't get much done in the world, or as much done in the world as someone who's more narcissistic and who can turn off their feelings. Now, the ideal is that we have both, right? We do everything that we do with our thoughts and our feelings working together, which is the mystical marriage of the male and the female. And only then can the enlightenment express through the physical human, through the chakra system, only when the genders are balanced. So, and it's the most difficult hermetic principle to master. And if you're interested in doing that, tell the creator, show me in any way that I can, show me how I can balance the male and the female within me, how they can work together, my thoughts and feelings. And if, when you're in the present moment, right, with someone, when you're in the heart, your thoughts and feelings work together. So the easiest way to achieve the mystical marriage is in every situation that you're in, with every person that you talk to, feel your heart. Almost imagine a cord from your heart to your mouth, that everything that comes out of your mouth ideally should come from the heart. And then in there are our thoughts and feelings working together. So I wanted to talk about guilt, about how it bonds people, especially very compassionate people. But idiot compassion is not compassion. Idiot compassion is kindness without wisdom. Idiot compassion is kindness to others, but not kindness to myself. And the sad thing is that often is not found out to be an unconscious pattern until later in life, where you've suffered a lot. You've suffered a lot. So if something feels bad to you, there's no matter how bad their childhood was, no matter how lonely they are, no matter what their situation is, you are under no obligation whatsoever to stay connected to you. And actually, when you disengage from emotionally manipulative dynamics, what you're telling the universe is like, this is not, I don't invite this into my life in any way, shape, or form, right? No, like, again, and if you've suffered severe abuse, you also want to say no to any kinds of abuse. People that don't apologize, people that aren't self-responsible, people that are passive aggressive. None of it. Take none of it. Zero. And I can feel even people that are listening, that will listen to this, be like, really? But if I do that, like, then I won't have anyone in my life. That's not true. Because the thing is, look, there's a difference between people who slip, who make mistakes and are sincerely, who really don't want to show up that way anymore, and they make the effort to have clearing conversations to heal the dynamic. There's a big difference. And if you're an empath, you can really kind of easily, very quickly tell the difference between somebody who is preferring to stay in a righteous energy versus someone who's sincere, who is also as imperfect as you are, but is willing to have confrontation and building conversations so that the dynamic between you and those other people continues to improve and be more and more based in a loving energy. So I just see this so often, people that think they're being compassionate. When I did Rohan for the first time, not for the first time, I don't remember what level it was. This is the work that I do with people. It's very intensive work, but I remember drawing a baby in a crib there was a mobile. So the drawings represent the subconscious and basically hell realms that we're stuck in. And the baby, the third eye, like, it had a third eye and it was all like messed up. It was like closed. And there was, on the mobile, there was a cross, a Star of David, like there was all these religious symbols. And the baby like was looking up at the religious symbols, and each of them represented a way that religious conditioning was keeping my third eye closed. Like, meaning I can't see things as they are because I want to be a compassionate spiritual person. I want to be a kind person. So like, I'm not going to call a spade and see something that feels terribly wrong with me and make appropriate actions based on that. We can't see things as they are, as long as we're trying to be something, right? We want to be seen a certain way, as long as we want something from people, right? If we're pedestalizing people, giving our power away, we want something from them. If you don't want, being whole is, I don't need anything from anyone. And that's not the same thing as not having needs, before somebody erupts with that. No, it's that I don't need, like, my power, my source is not you. My love doesn't come from you. So when we don't need anything from anyone, and when we don't need to be anything but ourselves, we can see things as they are because we're not distorting facts, right? So that was really mind-blowing, because basically what that represented was idiot. The sentence that I wrote that it represented was, idiot compassion keeps me fractured. That's why the mobile had all the different religious symbols. Instead of one, it was like it keeps me fractured, trying to be a good person, trying to follow the law of Judaism, trying to have Christian unconditional love, like trying to be anything fractures you. If you can't also feel something, call a spade, and make appropriate decisions, right? It's the same thing as saying, if I have rotten food on my plate, I will not put it in my mouth. If I'm walking at night and I sense that there's trouble down that alleyway, I will not walk that way. And so we have to use our discernment, right, to make appropriate decisions with people in our lives. And yeah, it's like religion, religious conditioning, whether you were raised religiously or not, is like the trickster's playground, because it's so seductive to fall for the idea that I should be just compassionate at all times. That's not what feminine energy, like, that's not what Jesus was about. Jesus was extremely passionate about what he believed in. He wasn't this passive, like, doormat. But we have distorted those stories to keep us fractured, especially if we have karma of the doormat variety, where we think that being good, being kind, being spiritual means being a doormat, being passive, and allowing myself to remain in unhealthy bonds through the electromagnetic pull of guilt. Guilt is healthy when you've made a mistake and you know that you have a soul. So your soul says, you know what? That wasn't cool. Let's try better. Let's show up with more integrity. But to be riddled with guilt and to be electromagnetically bonded to something harmful to you because of guilt, I mean, you could stay trapped in that for lifetimes. Break the bond. You should only be bonded to something because you want to be, not because you feel obliged. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful day.